In 2019, Luke Perry died. As Dylan McKay from Beverly Hills 90210, he was a heartthrob to the entire generation. And when he was buried on his farm in Tennessee, he was wearing a suit made of mushrooms. A burial suit seeded with mushroom spores, designed to digest him and deliver nutrients back to the farm he loved. He'd seen a talk about it and he told his daughter, "That is what I want." And because he said it out loud and to a person who could act on it, that is exactly what he got. It seems while no one was looking, the two standard exits, the box or the fire, have quietly turned into a varied and interesting menu. You can now leave as a cubic metre of garden soil or as clean, pristine white sand. You can become a coral reef, a playable vinyl record, or you could be turned into a diamond on your granddaughter's hand. And that is just to name a few. Dylan from 90210 is currently feeding a farm in Tennessee, exactly as requested. So, what would you choose? Welcome to Once in a Lifetime, the Death Tech podcast. I'm Nook O'Day and I'm the founder of Adios, a platform that helps people get their death admin sorted, which means I spend a lot of my time talking about all things death. It's a barrel of laughs. Today's episode is about the greening of death, because it turns out the way we leave has a footprint, and the fastest growing corner of the entire death industry is the one that's trying to make it greener. Composting, water cremation, reefs, records, diamonds, the technology has raced ahead. The paperwork, as usual, has not. And that is where the drama lives. There are 3 acts in today's show. Act 1, compost me, maybe. The people becoming soil. Act 2, the gentle cycle. Cremation minus the fire. And Act 3, the memorial menu. Records, reefs, and diamonds. Act 1, compost me, maybe. Let's start with a word you may not have heard yet. Terramation, also known as natural organic reduction, also known less romantically as human composting. Yes, not your food scraps, you. Here's how it works. Your body is placed in a reusable stainless steel vessel on a bed of wood chips, straw, and alfalfa. Then microbes, the same workforce that turn your compost into garden gold, do what microbes do, just in a controlled, monitored, and quite frankly, luxurious setting. The vessel keeps temperature and oxygen exactly right, and over several weeks you are gently transformed into roughly a cubic metre of rich, dark, organic soil. Your family gets the soil, and let's come back to that. First legalised in the US in 2019, and in Europe, Germany allows it under strict conditions. Shock me. Regulations around Terramation are being reviewed in the UK and Switzerland. And in Australia, not legal, not anywhere, not yet. As mentioned last episode, it's now officially on the table with a bill in the New South Wales Parliament to legalise it. And the pressure behind that bill is real estate. Sydney is running out of cemetery space, and a burial plot there can cost $10,000 to $20,000 just for the land before anything else happens. Dying in Sydney has the same core problem as living in Sydney, the property market. So why do people choose this? 3 reasons keep coming up. 1, the environment. A traditional burial involves chemicals, a casket, and a concrete vault, permanently in the ground. Cremation, which feels tidier, I guess, burns serious fossil fuels and sends your carbon directly up the chimney. Terramation uses about 1/8 of the energy of cremation, and instead of releasing your carbon, it keeps it in the soil doing something useful. 2. The romance. For a lot of people, becoming a tree simply feels nicer than being sealed away in a box for eternity. And 3, land, or lack thereof. No plot, no vault, no small permanent piece of increasingly unaffordable real estate. So, the price sits in the middle of the market. In the US, it's about $5,000 to $7,000, which covers the transformation, the regulatory paperwork, and returning the soil to your family. If the New South Wales bill passes, analysts expect Australian pricing to be around $7,000 to $9,000 mark, which is genuinely competitive with an average burial. And you get some top-grade garden soil. Which brings us back to the sentence, your family gets the soil. 1 cubic metre, if they want it. Now, that's a couple of wheelbarrows. It's enough for a whole garden bed. Some families plant a memorial tree or spread it somewhere loved by the deceased. Some people choose to donate it to conservation land for restoration purposes. They're all great options. But 1/4 ton of you arriving at the front door is a detail your family probably needs to know about, in advance and in writing. Act 2, the gentle cycle. So, if composting is death by garden, aquamation is death by very long, very warm bath. The scientific name is alkaline hydrolysis. The marketing names are water cremation, green cremation, aquamation. Whatever you call it, it's cremation without the fire. The process. Your body is placed into a stainless steel pressurized vessel filled with roughly 95% water and 5% alkali, usually potassium hydroxide. You apply heat, somewhere between 93 and 150 degrees, a little pressure, and over 4 to 8 hours, the process does what nature would take decades to do. It returns you to your basic chemistry. 2 things come out. First, your bones. Softened but intact, then dried and processed into a clean, fine, white powder. This is what your family will receive in the urn, similar to a fire cremation. In fact, though, they receive about 20% more because none of you went up in smoke. Second, and this is a bit icky, the liquid. It's amber in colour, completely sterile, no DNA, no chemicals. It's just amino acids, peptides, sugars, and salts. The building blocks, or our very basic chemistry. So what happens to the amber liquid, which was once you? Well, most commonly it goes into the wastewater system, and before you clutch your pearls, treatment plants like it. It is so rich in nutrient, it actually helps them process everything else. And some facilities work with the families to use it as organic fertilizers for forests or memorial gardens. So your final act could be feeding a forest. It's not a bad legacy. The environmental maths around aquamation is blunt. About 90% less energy than a flame cremation, virtually zero emissions, no carbon plume, and none of that mercury from the old dental fillings, which, sorry to report, is a real thing flame cremation puts into the atmosphere. Then there's what the industry calls the gentle factor. Plenty of families struggle with fire and struggle equally with the idea of a slow decay underground. Water reads as soft. And here's the practical kicker. Unlike Terramation, we don't have to wait for Parliament. Aquamation is legal and operating right now in New South Wales, Queensland and Tasmania, with other states reworking their burial acts to catch up. In the US, it's legal in more than 30 states. And the price? Well, a direct aquamation is roughly $2,500 to $4,500. It's on par with a standard fire cremation and significantly less than a traditional burial. So for once, the green option is actually more affordable. The direction The direction of the industry is unmistakable. Sustainable death care is the fastest growing sector because the generation doing its planning right now is the generation that was first introduced to recycling bins and is currently installing solar panels. They're buying electric cars. They are living to reduce their environmental impact. So naturally, this is a consideration in their death. Act 3. The memorial menu. So far, we've talked about what happens to all of you. This act is about what happens to a little bit of you, because where there are ashes, there are options. And the options have become a catalogue. These are just 3 of many. Option 1. Become a reef. Companies in the States, like Eternal Reef, have been operating since the late 1990s. They blend cremated remains into a pH-neutral marine-grade concrete and cast it into a hollow dome full of holes called a reef ball. Before it sets, your family can press handprints into it, write messages, embed shells. Then it goes out by boat and is lowered onto a permitted site on the ocean floor, often where a natural reef has been damaged. And then the ocean moves in. Coral and sponges attach, fish shelter in the holes. There are thousands of these in Florida, Texas, and the Carolinas. And families charter the boats to visit. Some learn to scuba dive so that they can drop in and say hi to Granddad. It's a headstone that grows. Option 2. Become an album. There's a UK company called Anvinally, chef's kiss, that will press your ashes into a playable vinyl record. You choose the audio, your favourite song, old voicemails, a message you record in advance, or, and this is the one that sort of gets me, silence. Nothing on the record at all because the ash is sprinkled onto the raw vinyl before pressing. And you'll hear crackles, and that crackle is the ash itself. The crackle is you. Every record comes out marbled and one of a kind, and everyone pops and hisses more than a normal pressing. Audiophiles would call it an imperfection. Families might call it personality. Option 3, become a diamond. Now this is the premium end of the menu. A diamond is just carbon under pressure, and you, conveniently, are carbon. Labs take about half a cup of ashes, purify the carbon in a vacuum furnace, and then place it in a high-pressure, high-temperature machine with a tiny diamond seed. They heat this up to close to 1,500 degrees, add extreme amount of pressure, around 850,000 psi, and somewhere between 3 and 11 months later, out comes a rough diamond. It's then cut and polished like any other stone. The costs are tiered. They start around 1,600 Australian dollars and go well past 35,000. Colour is the price lever. The nitrogen naturally found in human ashes grows amber and yellow diamonds, and that's at the affordable end. A fully colourless diamond will cost more, and a vivid blue or pink will cost more again. Now, a few quick consumer notes. First, verification. The question everybody thinks and nobody asks out loud is, how do I actually know Grandma is in that diamond? Well, the better companies answer it well before you ask. They film every stage of the process and send you photo and video updates from carbon extraction to cutting. If a provider cannot show you the chain of custody, you may well be wearing someone else's nana. Second, this is a young, lightly regulated market. Diamonds take up to 11 months. Ask what happens if the company folds mid-process. Who holds the remains? What is refundable? They're unromantic questions, I know, but well worth the ask. And here's the thread that sews this whole episode together. The menu is real, it is growing, and none of it is the default. The default is what happens when nobody knew what you wanted. Nobody becomes a coral reef by accident. Your family will not guess vinyl. Luke Perry got a mushroom suit for exactly one reason. He told someone. Every option on this menu starts the same way. with a sentence that someone can find. Before you go, here's your under a minute action. Open your phone and text the person most likely to be running your farewell. One question. Fire, water, soil, reef, record, diamond, tattoo ink, fireworks. There's so many options. Answer it for yourself while you're there. This is the whole task. One text and your preference has a witness which puts you ahead of most of the country. Feeling ambitious? Write it down properly. If you keep an end of life plan, and Adios does happen to make that suspiciously easy, it is one line under memorial. Aquamation, ashes to a reef, no fuss, done. Your family cannot honour a wish they never heard. And that's the show. Next episode, the people trying to opt out of death altogether. Biohackers stacking supplements and cold plunges by the hundreds, genetic tests that claim to read your future before you've lived it, and the blue zones, the real places on Earth where people just seem to keep going. That's next time. The links to these stories are in the show notes. Once in a Lifetime is an Adios production. I'm Nook O'Day. Life short, death happens, drama is optional. Adios.